Already, Rotten Tomatoes has given the series 25%, and it's ranked at a 4.8 on IMDb. So it's not doing so well. There's been a lot of talk about The Idol on Twitter, online in general, really just making fun of the show, and especially The Weeknd, and rightfully so. And it's so funny because I think Sam Levison and The Weeknd especially think because so many people are watching the show that it's doing well, because it must be doing well. There's so many streams. But when you jump online and see why people are streaming the show, you would know it's just to make fun of it. It's just to make fun of it. In a nutshell, the show is basically about Lily Rose Depp's character, this pop star singing sensation, who, like many female stars in Hollywood, are hypersexualized, over-sexualized, wearing these super revealing clothes, singing what we'll say distasteful song, talking about nothing much. She's also, like many pop stars, uninspired by her work. The songs she's singing, the music she's putting out, she doesn't really feel connected to them. And like many times in the industry, she's also got yes men, yes people around her. Essentially, no one ever tells her the truth or is real and honest with her. They just want to tell her what she wants to hear. But so what intrigues Lily's character in the first episode is she meets The Weeknd's character. The Weeknd's character is this guy who is very, very creepy. There's so many scenes where I'm questioning, is The Weeknd okay? We know The Weeknd and Sam Levison both had a hand in the making of the show, the creation of the show. So it's very interesting to see The Weeknd's character and how he portrays it. He's a weird man. But sorry, I'm getting off topic. The Weeknd's character is also a club owner and turns out to be someone that Lily looks to, that keeps it real with her, that isn't a yes person or a yes man in her circle who's gonna be honest with her about her music. Does it suck? Does it sound good? So she likes the kind of honesty he brings and his rapey vibe. Yeah, turns out she kind of likes that about him. Very first episode of The Idol is entitled Pop-Tarts and Rat Tails. Jocelyn is prepping for her huge and triumphant return to the music industry. She's taken, I think, a year or over 6 months hiatus after her canceling her tour and having mental health issues, etc., which is, in the first episode, we get a very strange quote. So where we somehow end up in the conversation of mental illness being sexy. Who sat down and approved this script? Who sat down and wrote this script and said yes? But in episode 1, basically, as I stated, Jocelyn is preparing for her return to the music industry. We get scenes of her, photo shooting naked. One thing that really gets me going about shows like Euphoria and The Idol and other shows that are kind of tackling sensitive topics or topics that are for mature audiences, as stated, there seems always to be a hyper focus, making everything super in your face. So much nudity, so much language, or so much drug abuse. It's just too much at times, and I think this show is a very good representation of what it means to overdo it. And her team gets this very alarming picture sent to them that shows Jocelyn on her knees with some Krispy Kreme delights on the side of her face, some nut. And so their team is doing their best to hide the fact that this picture just went viral of her in a very vulnerable moment, we'll say. But so later in the episode, we also get the scene where Jocelyn meets The Weeknd's character, Mr. Ragtail Pony Guy. And like I said, The Weeknd's character honestly disturbs me. When he gets invited over to Jocelyn's house, there's this weird scene of him in the mirror. And if I can find it, I'll insert it. Why? I just want to know why. But so they're in the club, start hitting it off, they're dancing on the dance floor, they go into the back room, have a little steamy makeout session. And then after, Jocelyn's assistant and best friend comes and is looking for her and kind of ruins the moment of their steamy hookup. They sit on the stairwell and have, or attempt to have, a deep conversation. But while that is happening, we also get a lot of weird sexual tension. And so what's supposed to be a deep conversation or a conversation of them opening up to one another quickly and weirdly turns sexual. Like the conversation that Jocelyn and The Weeknd's character were having after Jocelyn shows him her new song about, I think it was her losing her mother. There was like a serious matter or topic that was brought up. And then like immediately after, we go back to them having sexual tension. And it's just odd. The placement of these sexual encounters in the midst of them having a deep conversation is odd. The show originally had a female director, and I'll insert her name in a picture of her somewhere on the screen. But after Sam Levison took on the project, alongside The Weeknd, it turned from being told from the female perspective, which was supposed to shed light on the terrible things that happen in the music industry for women being a pop star, then being told to the male perspective, where someone quotes, it turned into a show about a man who gets to abuse a woman, and the woman loves it. The show basically turned into the very thing it was criticizing, it was making fun of. So it just makes it all the more disturbing seeing all these scenes where we just get this unnecessary nudity, these weird close-up shots up her skirter, up her, short shorts. It makes, I think, a lot of the female audience uncomfortable. This show is definitely for the male gaze, and there's a lot of conversations out there about the toxic male gaze and the problems with making shows so-called more aggressive or more violent or more sexual to appease or appeal to more of a male audience. There's a long history of shows that are guilty of this, that have taken on these weird plots or storylines or concepts in shows just to get more of a male audience watching the show. And it's just questionable. It's very questionable why these things do attract more of a male audience. As I was watching the show though, I think the first episode was entirely boring. There was so much pointless dialogue to the point I was thinking, was this even actually scripted out? Like, did writers actually give them a script to work with? Or were they just kind of told to improvise? Because the conversations, each scene, just felt meaningless and pointless. There wasn't much storytelling to the script either. For this to be a series where each episode is an hour long, I'm expecting us to really dive in on the first episode. We really get a sense of each of the characters and each of these intricate, dynamic side plot lines. Honestly, it was not very much of a cohesive storyline in the first episode to where all of the scenes connected and made sense with developing the plot and furthering the plot. Everything just felt random and thrown in, and there were a lot of, I feel like, empty spaces and silent scenes or moments that just were boring. But yeah, as I stated, I won't be continuing watching this show. It's definitely not my cup of tea. If you are caught up and have watched all of the episodes of The Idol that's out so far, tell me your thoughts. How do you feel about each of the characters, especially The Weeknd's character? What are some of your strong dislikes of the show or even likes of the show? Just let me know your thoughts down below. If you want, you can check out my previous TV show reviews. I've recently reviewed the final season of Never Have I Ever, and I've talked about XO Kitty. We're also going to be talking about The Summer I Turned Pretty coming up pretty soon. So stay tuned for all of that fun. And remember, guys, mental illness is sexy. Bye, guys. I'll see you in my next video.